The messaging in this final phase of the campaign, even more robotic than the earlier stages. Rishi Sunak at a food distribution centre in Bedfordshire insisted that voters shouldn't just cast their vote against his party, but be sure they know what could come in its place.
Let me get straight to it. I know there'll be many of you who would have supported us in the past who are a bit more hesitant about doing that this time around. And I get it, right? I'm not blind to the frustrations that many of you will have. It's been a difficult few years for all of us with COVID. But on Thursday, it's not a by-election. It's not a referendum about the past. It's a really important choice about our future as a country. And the choice you make will have enormous consequences for you and your family. And I'd urge you to think very hard about it. And you would have seen all the polls and what they're saying. And if you give a blank cheque, or we end up collectively giving a blank cheque to the Labour Party, that is going to have a massive impact on you and your finances, your family, and indeed our country.
Keir Starmer was in Nottinghamshire, deep in what would normally be considered super-safe Tory terrain. He hit back at Tory campaign lines, suggesting his wish to try to make time for family dinner on a Friday evening showed he was work-shy.
They're just in this negative, desperate loop. And it is really desperate. My family is really important to me, as they will be to every single person watching this. And I just think it's increasing desperation, bordering on hysterical now.
That didn't stop the Tories releasing this online ad this evening.
Power cuts are expected across Britain throughout the day.
School's online today, they say it's too busy.
All political parties expressed concern about some voters not having received their postal votes on time. One government source suggested it was down to failings in certain councils and certain Royal Mail sorting offices. One Royal Mail source blamed the snap election.
There's a big expansion in postal votes. What has happened, there have been some people who've got their postal votes quite late. And that is definitely an issue. And for those people, they can still return their postal votes. They can put them in the postal system, and Royal Mail will do sweeps tomorrow to make sure that they get to the returning officers to the count after 10 p.m. on Thursday. Or they can just hand in those postal votes directly at the polling station, or they can ask someone else to do it as well.
The Lib Dem leader campaigning in Cornwall added to his album of encounters with the water. But this is an election in which party leaders' encounters outside the studio have been restricted almost without exception. To party loyalists, as at this football ground today,
you can ask him anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister.
Or small groups of workers gathered at their workplace. Bosses looking on.
The sort of sterilisation of the encounters between voters and party leaders has been going on now for 10, 15 years, with occasional blips where something happens. It's all part of a long-term trend, and I just think this one's worse. They both parties have taken it to its sort of logical extreme.
Some people are saying, as they watch events around Europe and in America, that maybe Brexit was Britain's populist right moment, and we're through that, out the other end. And if you're elected, that might be proof of that. Is that right?
Well, I think this is a really serious issue in terms of the tides and currents of politics, both in this country and across Europe. And, you know, I believe that there are, you know, many challenges in this country, across Europe and across the world, which are more volatile now than they've been for a number of years. And within that, has been a loss of confidence in politics itself as the answer to those challenges, a sort of disaffection.
That is warm to the touch. That is very nice.
Tories were drawing some comfort from a few polls suggesting some pickup in their ratings, a slight drop-off for Reform UK. But not one poll suggesting it's remotely big enough to change the central story of looming bad defeat.